Hey gaming fans, so this is another deck profile. I've already done this deck before, a couple of weeks ago I think, and this was my Melodious deck. Now I've just been doing some improvements. I got some great feedback from my first video I did on this, and I decided to make some changes, and I got some new cards. So let's do another deck profile and see all the changes that I've done. So the first one obviously is Sonata. She's the level 3 of the deck, and if you control a Melodious monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and she gives a great attack boost of 500 attack points and defense points to all the Melodious monsters. So I think originally I had 2 in the deck, but I decided to bump it up because I find that you really do need to go aggro in this deck at some point. Then I have 2 of the Soprano, the Melodious Songstress. I was debating on this one, how many I should have in the deck, if I should have any at all. But I realized actually it is pretty good because she can revive a card from the graveyard back to your hand. When she special summons, she can grab a Melodious monster and put it in your hand, or she as well she could be used as fusion in replace for Polymerization, and you could fuse her with another Melodious monster. The next one, which I think is probably one of the better ones, and that's Araya, the Melodious Diva. She doesn't do anything when she's just normal summoned, but when she's special summoned, she becomes a real pain to get rid of. Pretty much all your Melodious monsters can't be targeted by card effects or destroyed by battle, so special summoning her creates almost like a tiny wall for your opponent to get around. Next, so we're going to go into the level 5s here. So the levels are all over the place in this deck. So there's 3 Alegi, however you want to pronounce that. The Melodious Diva. This one is kind of like your soft lock with the Araya. Basically, she prevents all Melodious monsters from being destroyed by card effects. So if you get these 2 on the field, they can't be destroyed by card effects, and they can't be destroyed by battle or targeted. So it makes a really good wall, almost like a soft lock against your opponent. And then this one also will boost up all fairies by 300 attack, which is also good. Then I got one of the level 7, which is the Sofina, the Melodious Maestra. Once per turn, you could target 1 light fairy monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So it's okay. I mean, that's why I threw 1 in there. For later on in the duel, you probably want to fetch some of these ones that get sent to the graveyard for various reasons. And then the last one, which is the biggest one, and that is the Mozarta, the Melodious Maestra. So once per turn, you can special summon 1 light fairy type monster from your hand. You cannot special summon other monsters other than light monsters, which is fine. Pretty much the whole deck, aside from some of my side deck choices, my extra deck choices, it's pretty much all light, and all the main deck monsters are light, so it really doesn't matter. And this one's good. Like, it's a level 8, which is going to come in handy for another card, and just being able to special summon a fairy from your hand, which is what you want to do. All these monsters you want to special summon, so really ties into the strategy. And that's it. It's a fairly lean monster count. I think it's about 15 monsters I have in there, because I rely a lot on the spells to get the monsters out. So now, this was the one card I didn't have in my first build, and that's Ostinato. And there's a reason why I didn't have it in my build. It's because I didn't know it existed. Being that I, kind of just got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! This year, and I've been on hiatus kind of for about three and a half, I think, years. So a lot of these cards came out, and, it's hard to keep up with everything that has come out since you've stopped collecting. And so this was one of them I was surprised to see, and this is kind of what made me really want to rebuild this deck, I should say again. And I kind of focus a little bit more on this effect. So basically what this does is, if you have no monsters on the field, you can fusion summon one of your Melodious extra deck, or your fusion, I should say, monsters, and by using materials from your hand or your deck, which is really good because then you don't have to worry about having them in your hand, and you can pull out whichever ones you want, especially when you're going to fuse for something like this one, who's any 2 Melodious monsters. And so pretty much what I would do is I would grab the 2 main pieces that I want to create a lock with. That would be my Araya and my Alegi. Basically, you fetch these 2. And then what it does is it fusion summons the monster, and then it stays there till the end of the turn. Then it gets destroyed, and then it special summons the 2 monsters that it was fused with. So it will special summon your Melodious monsters back onto the field, and then you'll get their effects. Really good card. The only thing is, once you start setting up your board, drawing this card becomes a pain. So, but I still want 3 because I want to, increase my chances of opening with it. Same kind of goes with this one. This is the first movement solo. My original build had 3 of these and none of these. And it's only good to actually pull out, your Araya, so you can special summon her on, say, turn 1, and hopefully she'll sit there. It could also come in handy if you want, if you had another one in your hand or something like that. It's really, it's a one-trick pony, I guess you want to say, and it's only level 4 or lower, so you can't grab your big ones. And again, once you get your board going, it's going to be a dead draw. So I only threw 1 in. Then I threw in, or I have 2 Celestial Transformations. This is basically just a quick throw a fairy onto the board, and then it destroys it at the end of the turn. It does cut the monster's attack in half, but that's okay if you're going to use it for its effect. So in a pinch, I could special summon Mozarta and then use her effect to special summon something from my hand, even if she destroys herself at the end of the turn. The other thing is, I'm pretty certain that if you have this out, or if you special summon this guy or girl, card effects do not destroy them, so I think that would also apply to that. I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I'm thinking, that it would stay alive because the fairies can't be destroyed by the card effects. Then we got the 1 Monster Reborn. You got to have Reborn in your deck. Even if there's nothing for your graveyard to reborn, you could just steal your opponent's monsters. Really good card, always a good card. Then I got 2 Photon Sanctuary. So in my first build I had 3 of them, and I found that I kept just drawing these when I didn't need them, and they're really, they're okay to, in a pinch, you get your 2 level 4 2000 attack 0 defense tokens that cannot attack or be used as synchro materials, but really what you're doing is you're setting up for tribute fodder. So just in case you actually had to normal summon one of these, you got level 8, level 7, so you get 2 tokens and then you can normal summon right away, or level 5, 1 token. But there's another card I use this with as well, and another reason why I'm using 1 Soul Exchange. Again, you could tribute for your monsters, but the main reason why I threw that in is I'm playing 3 monster gates. And so really what the trick is, if you have this in your hand, you get your tokens, and then you contribute one of your tokens off, get something from the deck. And Monster Gate, it's whatever the next monster that you could special summon off the top of your deck, so you don't know what it's going to be. But also with Soul Exchange, is your opponent has a monster, you play Soul Exchange. Soul Exchange allows you to, if you're going to tribute a monster on your side of the field, you can instead tribute your opponent's monster. So I would play Soul Exchange, target one of the monsters I want to get rid of, and Monster Gate. I don't think Soul Exchange targets. Oh, no, it does. I'm a liar. Target 1 monster, yeah. So you do target, but this one, then you would just tribute it off and get yourself a monster. So you don't really lose any advantage because this gets rid of the monster, this gives you a new monster. So that was my thought and planning on that one. And of course 1 reasoning, which is why I was mentioning the level counts, because you got 3s, 4s, 5s, 7s, 8s. So obviously I think the most of the time your opponent's going to probably call 4. And if they do, they do. But if they don't, you get a nice, if they do and you don't pull a 4, you get a nice big monster instead. Then I got 2 Polymerization. This one, I think my original build didn't even have one. I can't remember now. I might have had one, and I decided to bump it up to 2. I ended up taking out one of the Photon Sanctuaries for a second Polymerization. Basically, it just helps if you have a brick of a hand. If you get all your tribute monsters in your hand, you can always Polymerization. Even if you get a big field going on, you can get rid of some of them off the field, poly into one of your fusion monsters. And then for the last few spells, just some spell and trap removal. I still play the traditional mystical space typhoons, but sometimes I'll change that up with, you know, I don't know, whatever, the Cosmic Cyclones or something like that, or the Twin Twisters or something. And then the Dark Holes. I find the Dark Holes are pretty fun in this deck because once you set up your board, Dark Hole doesn't affect your monsters, because if you have your special summon this lady out on the field, she protects all your monsters from Dark Hole. So pretty fun. I mean, obviously you can play Raigeki in Dark Hole, or if you have Lightning Storm or Lightning Strike or whatever it's called, you know, you can play with whatever you have. And to further the destruction of monsters, 2 Torrential Tributes. Same thing as the Dark Hole. I can summon my fairy and blow everything up. And I wanted some more special summoning power, so I threw in some Call of the Haunted. And what's cool about Call of the Haunted is if your first turn, if you actually go into your Ostinato, you could pull out your 2 fairies, get your fusion monster. The fusion monster dies. Your fairies come back, turn your opponent's turn, flip a Call of the Haunted, bring the fusion monster back. So unless they have an MST that they can chain and destroy it, you're going to have your fusion monster out. And your 2 Melodious monsters will protect her from being destroyed if they try to kill it. So that was my thought with the deck there. And just for the extra deck, I was just trying to come up with some ideas for this one. Obviously, you got to have the fusion monsters, so I got the Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir, which is kind of it's an odd card. It basically can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. But if you set up properly, it's a Melodious monster anyways. Also, you take no battle damage from this thing, so pretty much what it does is you attack something, and the damage difference goes to your opponent instead of you. So if it's a really, really big monster, you slam into it, and they take all the damage, and it destroys the monster. I got 3 of the Schuberta, the Melodious Maestras. This is any 2 Melodious monsters, so this is what you pretty much are always going to use. And it has a nice little effect where it can banish 3 monsters, or 3 cards from any graveyards, and it gets 200 attack for each card. You can only use it once while it's on the field, but that's fine. And it can get up to like 3,000 attack really fast. That's all I have for the fusions. Then I have a bunch of XYZs. XYZ cards, so I thought, you know, I should have some rank 3s because there are these two girls, I keep saying guys, the Sonatas, and they're level 3s, so there's 3 in the deck, so there's a good chance that you can XYZ into these. And I figure, you know, this will be something that's beefcake if you need to get something big out, or if you want to restore one of your cards that you banished with this effect. You could special summon to the field. So that was my thought there. And this one too, once it runs out of its XYZ materials and it can no longer attack, you could just tribute it off with Monster Gate. And I threw in, because it's fairies, a fairy cheer girl. I mean, there are a bunch of level 4s in here, so you could pull this one off. And it pretty much is just draw power. It just gives you possibly 2 chances to draw a card. I just threw in things like Digusto Emerald, things that I typically played in the past. I don't have any Link monsters that I can play in this deck, but I'm sure there are quite a few that you can use. So I used Castel, Abyss Dweller, 101 Arc. Then I put in some 5s just in case. There are the 5s. I don't know if I'd ever want to go into a 5, you know, get rid of my my Melodious guy, but or girl, just in case it's there. And there is a possibility of going into an 8, so I threw in a Hieratic Sun, Overlord, and Divine Dragon. Obviously, if you got better ones, throw those ones in, but these are the ones that I still have from my collection. Anyways, yeah, this was my updated Melodious deck. I'd like to know what you have to say, and throw some comments down below. Always looking for improvements, and if there's some Link monsters that could be used properly in this deck, throw it in the comments below. I'd like to hear it. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.